All right, y'all. Look, welcome into the Be More Show out here on location, different scenery, but always a lot of fun when we got something different in the background, different to listen to besides me. But anywho, look, welcome in. It's the Be More Show. We got to preview this game for the Ravens versus the Lions, Monday Night Football. Goodness, can y'all just y'all feel that? Look, y'all feel that Monday Night Football is always where it's at. I mean, I know they've had I don't know what I prefer, Monday Night Football or Sunday Night Football. I don't know. Either one is always really fun. I feel like Sunday Night Football is a little bit better than Monday Night Football. Monday Night Football is always fun too. Anytime the Ravens get on prime time, chef's kiss. Was that chef's kiss? Chef's kiss. You know what I'm saying? Look, y'all. It's the Ravens versus the Lions tonight, and it's funny. Back in 2023, they played, and Lamar Jackson had four touchdowns, and this team just absolutely dominated the Detroit Lions, who looked like they were surging to become Super Bowl contenders. Right? They would have that season where they really broke out, and then the next season where they broke out, but their playoff issues were a problem. So look, Ravens coming into this game, injuries seem to be the common problem, right? You got Kyle Van Noy missing from that defense. You got Nnamdi Madubuike missing from that defense, and that's enough to make you feel like, oh my goodness, what is going on with this team? That's enough to make you feel like, man, like this could be a tough matchup because you got to stop Jamar Gibbs and you got to stop David Montgomery, and also you got to get pressure on Jared Goff because we know Jared Goff. You let him sit back there and you let him dot you up, he will dot you up. He's the number one overall pick for a reason, and especially when he gets time, and we've seen it with these Detroit Lions when he gets time. I mean, it's all over but the crying. They're a really solid team, but if you can make him uncomfortable from snap one, we're gonna say from day one, but that don't work. But from snap one, you make him uncomfortable, absolutely. You can take advantage, and I feel like that's what the Ravens did last time against the Lions, and I think that's what they're gonna have to do this time. They're gonna have to get after him early. They're gonna have to get after him early and often because missing those two guys, you got one of your better pass rushers, probably statistically your best pass rusher, and also you got you got who claws up the middle, takes up double teams. It's gonna be interesting to see who takes those guys' place because I mean, of course you got Tavius Robinson, who I feel like has played pretty well. Honestly, I feel like he's played better than Mike Green has so far, but I feel like I'm excited to see Mike Green get a couple more snaps too because if Mike Green gets a couple more snaps, that's gonna be big too because we can get a chance to really see what some of these other guys can do, right? Because Kyle Van Noy ain't gonna be there forever, but obviously he's shown time and time again to be a very good rusher for the Baltimore Ravens. So I'm interested to see who's gonna kind of step up in his place because he's one of those guys, kind of Swiss Army knife type dude. When you think about Kyle Van Noy, and when I think about Kyle Van Noy, I feel like he can do anything you ask him to do. You need him to blitz, you need him to pass rush, you need him to make a tackle, you need him to stop the run. He can do it all. And I'm curious to see who steps up in that place. Tavius Robinson, will it be Mike Green? We'll see. I mean, I think both of them will probably be a combination of them both, but I'll be interested to see, bold prediction wise, who ends up being the guy who comes out and really makes that impact. But then on the offensive end, of course, Isaiah Likely, who's been nursing that injury since training camp, and also Patrick Ricard, which has been, I feel like, kind of huge for the Ravens' run game, and kind of not necessarily, I don't want to say the lack thereof, but of course, we saw in, finishing the game against the Bills, uh, specifically, that the Ravens struggled to finish the game, and I feel like a lot of that has to do with their run game, that extra offensive lineman in Patrick Ricard, more athletic offensive lineman that they bring in. And I think when he comes back, I think it's going to be big for him. Honestly, I'm a little bit surprised though because I expected the Ravens to call up. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but of course you remember they had another fullback that they decided to keep on the practice squad. I expected them to possibly call him up and have him play fullback just because the Ravens are, when it comes to their run game, not reliant on a fullback, but it is a key piece, right? It is a key piece that Todd Monken likes to use. We knew Greg Roman liked to use this, so look, let's get to our 3-2. All right, let's get to three things the Ravens got to do to win this game and two things they got to avoid. All right, so let's start with the three. So what the Ravens got to do going into this Lions game, I think I would say turn this team over. We've seen through the first couple of weeks, it was kind of up and down for the Lions, right? Week one, they were down, right? They were down, and it felt like they was out. Week two, they were back up again, right? And it all depends on turnovers. It all depends on how uncomfortable you make Jared Goff. If you can make Jared Goff uncomfortable, I mean, I'm not saying it's simple to beat this team, but make Jared Goff uncomfortable immediately right off the jump, and that's the main key to victory right there. Right now, we could also go into point two in terms of not turning the ball over yourself. Right now, that's more so to avoid. Let's go over to the two. That's to avoid turning the football over. Right when the Ravens play a clean game, when the Ravens play, I don't want to even necessarily say it's not conservative. I wouldn't say that, but when the Ravens play a clean game and they lean into their identity, right, which is with running the football with Derrick Henry, being efficient in the passing game, which that efficiency, because of how good this offense is, that efficiency in the passing game can turn into explosiveness in the passing game. And we've seen it time and time again. We saw it, like we said, against the Lions before. So that's gonna be one. I think that's gonna be very, very interesting. I think they're gonna have to avoid the turnovers, right? And they gotta make sure they push the Lions into turnovers, right? All right, let's look at number two. Number two for the Baltimore Ravens, what they have to do to win this game, kind of like we said, establish that run game, right? Get Derrick Henry back going again. Derrick Henry has had, it kind of goes back to that clean game aspect of it. Derrick Henry has had fumbles in the last two games. I think he got to clean that up. Number one, and I think he will. I mean, I think if you got any trust in anybody, you got trust in Derrick Henry. But I think because Derrick Henry is going to clean that up, I think it's just, I think he's going to run a little bit angry in this game. Now, albeit that front seven of the Lions is no joke either. They've been biting off kneecaps and stuff, but still, even though they're tough, Derrick Henry has shown time and time again that it doesn't really matter if the defensive front is tough. He can still break free if you still give it to him. So I think that's another point too. Like, give the ball, let Derrick Henry establish his rhythm. It might not start early, but let him establish his rhythm. He will eventually get going. Now back to the avoid side. What the Ravens have to avoid in this game, right? What the Ravens have to avoid. I think kind of like we said with the Browns, and it goes back to kind of that whole Monday Night Football, the emotions I was talking about before, with even just us as fans, that gets to the players too. Don't let this game be too emotional, right? Don't let this game be too emotional, right? And don't let the lights get too big for you, because sometimes I think that happens with the Ravens, but I mean honestly in the regular season it's been no problem. We've seen the Ravens time and time again against these huge opponents. We're talking about the Dolphins in past years. We're talking about, of course, this team. We're talking about the Bills in past years, with the exception of Week 1, of course. But even still, in the first three quarters, they played excellent football. So it's like you gotta keep that going. You gotta keep that going, and you have to get it done, right? You have to get it done, and not let the lights get too bright for you. Now, number three, in terms of getting this team going, I think they got to use, and I'm gonna say this, I'm gonna try to say this in the best way I can, but I think the Ravens have to be okay with nobody necessarily stepping out, right? Meaning, right, we know Kyle Hamilton's gonna step up. We know Marlon's gonna step up. We know Nate Williams is gonna step up. When it goes back to some of those holes that have to be filled, specifically just tonight with the injury issues with Kyle Van Noy, with um with our guy Nnamdi Madubuike, you know, I wouldn't focus too much on having Aeneas Peoples come in and trying to force a play out of him. Right, I wouldn't try to force a play out of Mike Green. I wouldn't try to force a play. If it's working, go with it. Right, we've talked about this before when it came to the offense, but I think specifically tonight with the injuries that you have, and there's some pretty big injuries, that's what's going to be one of the keys. Is I would not worry about who goes off tonight defensively. I would just let it happen, right? I would just let it happen. It'd be interesting to see how Zach Orr is able to coach this team up tonight, especially with the injuries that they got going on right now. With the injuries they got going on right now, it's going to be interesting. I feel like they kind of came out of nowhere, don't y'all think? Maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like they kind of came out of nowhere. And you gotta adjust. You gotta be next man up. I think it's gonna be very, very interesting. Look, bold prediction for tonight. I'm not gonna give an offensive bold prediction because I feel like I'm always going Jackson 5 is gonna happen, right? Bold prediction for tonight. Let's do it. Let's have some fun. Bold prediction for tonight. Offensively, my bold prediction. I don't even know if it's this bold. I don't even know if it's that bold at this point, because this man has been as consistent gets. But I think for the third week in a row, DeAndre Hopkins gets a touchdown, gets a receiving touchdown. I think it's gonna happen, right? I think for the third week in a row, DeAndre Hopkins is gonna get a receiving touchdown. And let me go even more bold with this offense. I'm gonna say this. I think Zay Flowers. I think Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman, and DeAndre Hopkins all get touchdowns tonight. Let's have a little fun on the bold predictions. Defensively, the bold prediction is I think Aeneas Peoples is gonna get his first sack in this league tonight. I like Aeneas Peoples. I think he's great. I think him having to step up where Namdi BK would usually be. I think it's gonna get him a sack. I don't think it's his first one though. I think I'm blanking on that one because I remember he was rushing through the middle and ended up I think forcing somebody to run back into him. So it might not be his first sack, but I think Aeneas Peoples will get a sack tonight. In terms of another bold prediction for sacks in general, because that was kind of one of the big talking points that we was talking about earlier. With no Kyle Minoy, no Sack Lear, I think the guy who gets the most sacks tonight, I think it's gonna be Mike Green. I think Mike Green's gonna show up and show out tonight. I could see a good little bit of Dafe Owe too as well, but it's gonna be very interesting because of course you got Ojabo too, so you got plenty of talent. It's just gonna depend on who shows up. I think it's gonna be Mike Green tonight. I know I put a lot of pressure on him throughout early in this season, and you know I think the expectations are big, but I think he's gonna show it. I think he's gonna get plenty of opportunities tonight, and I think we're gonna see some big things from Mike Green and Aeneas Peoples tonight. But look, y'all, I'm excited for Monday Night Football. I hope y'all are excited for Monday Night Football. Let me know down below. Y'all got a score prediction? Look, I'm no good at score predictions, so I'm not even gonna give one. But I want y'all down below to give me y'all score predictions since I'm no good at it. But look, y'all, I'll see you guys on the next episode of the Be More Show. Be sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. And look, we'll see you guys on the next episode of the Be More Show. I'll see y'all.